Welcome to my channel. My name is Cestel, and you are a beloved viewer who probably heard about me through X, and you can follow me there. Now that you're on Kick, you can follow me here too. You can go over to YouTube and you can subscribe to my channel. If you don't like YouTube, you can go over to Rumble and you can subscribe to that channel. Anyway, like I said, we are going to be discussing socialism, communism, and capitalism today. Woo! Okay, here we are. This is what we're discussing. Just like I said, right? Yeah, see, I know things. I know things that I plan to do in advance, right? Anyway, capitalism versus socialist economies. What's the difference? This is Investopedia.com. We're going to see what they say about what the difference is between capitalism and socialism, or at least the difference in their economies. And this is relatively recent, too, because this was posted on, or updated, rather, on May 31st of this year. So, in capitalist societies, the free market, in quotations, and therefore supply and demand, determines production and pricing with very little government intervention. In socialist economies, governments control production, distribution, and prices. The goal is to ensure everyone has access to the same resources, such as education and healthcare. Okay, so here are the key takeaways, okay? Capitalism and socialism are economic systems that countries use to manage their economic resources and regulate their means of production, okay? Is the market going to be in charge of production, or is the government going to be in charge of production, right? There is an argument both ways. I think one sucks, but there is an argument both ways, okay? Capitalism is based on individual initiative and favors market mechanisms over government intervention. That means it favors somebody who, like, let's say you're trying to run a business, and then there's, I don't know, let's say it's a hardware store, right? You're trying to run a hardware store, and there's a guy right across the street that is also running a hardware store, okay? How are you going to stop that guy from taking all of your business? Okay? Under a socialist economic system, you would only be allowed to sell your items for X price, right? Let's say it's a hammer for $5, right? You can only sell a hammer for $5 under a socialist system. However, if the guy across the street in a capitalist system is selling a hammer for $5 and you run a special, 2 hammers, you get buy one, get one half off, right? So you buy one hammer for $5 and you get the other one for $2.50. Now, who wants 2 hammers? I don't know. It doesn't matter. You're the one that got their business. It encourages innovation through competition, right? The only way you're going to make it is if you prove that you are better than everyone else, right? That's how that works in a capitalist system. In a socialist system, everything is exactly equal no matter how much initiative you put in, and what it eventually leads to is nobody putting in any initiative because there's no incentive to do so, right? If you're going to get the same no matter how hard you work, there's no incentive to work hard. And all that means is that eventually no one's going to work at all. Because why would they? And so that's why socialist economies end up collapsing in the end. And that's why capitalist economies, even though it leads to what some would say is unfair and large amounts of inequality, especially among financial classes, yes, it leads to that. But I will also say it only leads to that because the people that are in the low economic class of society have no desire or really just have no desire to get out of the low class of society, right? Because why would they? If they make too much money, they stop getting free shit. Right? That's literally, there are people that are on welfare and Social Security and stuff that can work that refuse to, because if they do work, they stop getting that paycheck, right? They stop getting WIC, they stop getting food stamps, they stop getting their disability check because they go to work, right? Even though they could make more money working, it requires effort on their part, and they don't want to do that. At some point, we need to let Darwin start doing his thing. And that's much easier to do under a capitalist system. Even though the United States has a lot of different socialist mechanisms baked into its fucking economy, it's mainly a capitalist economy, and that's why I like it a lot. Many economies tend to combine elements of both systems. Yeah, see, That's what I was talking about. So, like Canada, for example, right? Canada has a massive socialist healthcare system, right, where it taxes everybody X amount, and then healthcare is free. Now we can talk about the problems that leads to, and I have in a previous video. Please go and watch that video. It's where I was labeled a Russian bot on X, which is pretty cool because I was pointing out that the Canadian healthcare system sucks, and I proved it in my video. So that was pretty cool, dude. The hospitals in Canada were so backlogged that they started sending people to the United States for certain like medical procedures because they couldn't get them in a timely manner, right? So I like how the socialist healthcare system is offloading people to the capitalist healthcare system because they just can't handle it. It's funny. I'm just saying, people would die if it wasn't for the capitalist healthcare system. Capitalism has developed safety nets, while countries such as China and Vietnam may be edging toward full-fledged market economies. So, yeah, China, Vietnam, socialist economies, or communist economies, which is... We'll cover it. Socialism and communism are relatively the same thing. Socialism is what it starts out as, and then when everything gets super radical, because like I said, nobody wants to put forth any effort anymore because there's no reason to, it turns into communism because then the government has to be like, no, we're going to fucking make you because we don't have a choice. So that's just how that happens. Anyway, capitalism is defined as an economic system in which private individuals or businesses, rather than the government, own and control the factors of production. Entrepreneurship, capital goods, natural resources, and labor, etc., right? In a capitalist society, you are not going to work as a coal miner because you have to, right? You're not going to be down in the mines because they're making you be down there, right? You don't have to, okay? And you can work in the mines and then decide you hate it and then leave and go work in a cubicle somewhere. You can do that in a capitalist economy. In another economy, you're not really allowed to do that. The lack of limited role of government in capitalist economies extends to production, namely what to produce, how much to produce, and when to produce it. That's what I said. The government's not going to get in charge of that because if you need more shit, produce more shit. Like, that's how that works. It encourages people to go out and do it for themselves, which ultimately grows the economy exponentially. Because you don't have to have only one grocery store, right? You can have 10 grocery stores all in the same town because you all wanted to own your own grocery store. And as long as you make enough money to stay in business, namely pay your bills, you should be fine. Like pay for your inventory, which obviously you'll have to pay out of whatever income the business brings in. Pay for all your insurances, pay for your lease and all that crap, pay your bills. As long as you're making enough money to do that, you're good. Okay? If somebody wants to go out and be I don't remember what I was listening to. It was probably a podcast that said it. But it wasn't me. Sorry if I don't give the right person credit. Either way, somebody said, if Jeff Bezos wants to go out and be the Michael Jordan of capitalism, who the fuck are we to stop him? Right? And I agree with that, like, flat out. I was born into nearly nothing, like, at all. And I say nearly because I ate food, right? Like, I wasn't on the street in a box. But we moved around a lot. We lived with a bunch of different people. There were some nights where we made our meal in the fireplace because we didn't have electricity or, like, gas or water or anything like that. There were some nights where what we lived in was, I mean, it was a trailer like home, but it was essentially a cardboard box because, bro, it sucked. And I am happy to say that I am not nearly in that. I'm not even in that class of society anymore, and I've been able to raise myself out of that. And I've only been able to do that because of the capitalist economy that I was born into and that I was raised up in and that I now actively participate in vigorously. Because I absolutely believe in it. Let's see here. The lack of limited role of government in capitalist economies extends... Oh, I already read all that crap. This means that the cost of goods and services is determined by market dynamics rather than the government. When entrepreneurs spot openings in the marketplace, they rush in to fill the vacuum. Okay? If there is a need for jobs in a city that is run down, when a large business moves to that city and builds their factory there, it creates jobs. And it floods that city's economy with money. That's how a capitalist economy works. And that can be infinitely scaled. Capitalism is based on several factors, including a free market economy. This means that the economy distributes goods and services according to the law of supply and demand, rather than according to the law. Higher demand leads to the increase in... According to this law, higher demand leads to the increase in prices and output by producers. The greater supply helps level prices out to the point that only the strongest competitors remain. That's what I was just talking about, the competition. Competitors try to boost their profits by selling their goods for as much as they can while keeping costs low. Okay? Ultimately, if I pay $3 for, I don't know. Well, let's just use something. I owned vending machines for a while, so I can use this. If I pay $25 for a box of 50 individually wrapped bags of chips, because I went to Sam's Club or Costco or something like that, right? And I buy those like little snack-sized bags of like Doritos chips that come in big boxes of 50, and I buy it for $25, and then I sell each of those bags for $1, which is absolutely a fair price for those bags, even though I only paid 50 cents per bag. I am profiting $25 on that box. Right? Because I'm going to earn $50 if I spent the whole thing. I paid $25 for it, so I get my money back, plus an additional 100% return on my initial $25 investment. If, for whatever reason, someone comes in and puts a vending machine next to me and sells their chips for 75 cents, that's going to affect my bottom line, which means I have to then, because people aren't going to buy the $1 bag of chips when there's a $75 same bag of chips right next to it, right? So that means I will then have to either lower my price or change my inventory to sell something else that maybe the other guy's not selling. That's how the competition works. And now, all of a sudden, and let's say I did that, right? Let's say I changed my inventory to something that he wasn't selling. Now, those same people that were going to that place and buying a $1 bag of chips are now going and buying the same bag of chips for 75 cents, right? So that's just... the price of the bag of chips went down just because the supply and demand were involved, right? You're not forced to pay the same amount for something regardless. The free operation of capital goods, supply and demand determine the fair prices for stock, bonds, derivatives, currencies, and commodities, right? I just explained that in the way of the bag of chips. Economist Adam Smith described how people are motivated to act in their self-interest in his book, An Inquiry into the Natural and Causes of the Wealth of Nations. This tendency serves as the basis for capitalism, with the invisible hand of the market serving as the balance between competing tendencies, or competing tendencies, my bad. Because markets distribute the factors of production per supply and demand, the government can limit itself to enacting and enforcing rules of fair play, right? Okay, so I've explained capitalist societies in a pretty lengthy thing, right? I've explained them pretty well. This is a socialist economy. Unlike capitalism, socialist governments are involved in many aspects of the economy. This means that they determine the amount of output, or production, and the pricing levels of these goods and services rather than the free market. People in a socialist economy may depend on the state for food, employment, healthcare, or other basic goods. Like I said, up in Canada they have a socialist healthcare system. Everyone there depends on the Canadian government for their own healthcare, which is why some people don't get that healthcare. Because the government can only provide so much. And also, the governments suck at fucking doing anything. The goal of socialism is to put more control into the hands of the public and reduce the power of corporations and the wealthy. While corporations have more freedom and leeway in controlling production and pricing in pure capitalist economies, it isn't true with socialist economies. Workers would have more control, reducing or eliminating private ownership and profit. Yes, fair enough. Workers would have more control. The problem is that de-incentivizes people to build a business. Okay? And without the businesses, there are no jobs. Both communism and socialism refer to left-wing schools of economic thought that oppose capitalism. However, the idea of socialism circulated for several decades before the release of the Communist Manifesto, an influential 1848 pamphlet by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. This is usually what people quote or refer to when they want to build some sort of socialist or communist society. This is how they want to do it. They refer to the Communist Manifesto. I am certain that you guys have heard of it. At the very least, you have heard the name Karl Marx, okay? This is his thing. Socialism is more permissive than pure communism, which makes no allowances for private property. That's what I said. It usually starts out as socialism, but whenever the incentive for working harder goes away, it has to switch to communism, where the government takes full control of everything and forces you to do everything, right? Under a socialist society, you're allowed to have your own property. It's just not allowed to be better than anybody else's. Under a communist society, you live where the fuck you're told, and everyone gets the same cubicle. They will eat the bugs, they will live in the pods, and they will like it. In purely socialist economies, the government sets prices and decides what to produce, an approach referred to as central planning. In other cases, the government interacts with the economy through state-owned enterprises that exist alongside private businesses. Advocates for socialism argue that the shared resources allow for a more equal distribution of goods and services and a fairer society. Again, that does happen, but only in the short term. In the long term, it's not going to work because there will be nothing to prop up the economy that supports this socialist program. Alright, so key differences. People in capitalist economies have strong incentives to work hard, increase efficiency, and produce superior products. Just like I said. By rewarding ingenuity and innovation, the market maximizes economic growth and individual prosperity while providing a variety of goods and services for consumers. Okay, it maximizes individual prosperity. I will say this again, maximizes individual prosperity. By encouraging the production of desirable goods and services and discouraging the production of unwanted and unnecessary ones, if you're making shit and people don't like it, they're not going to buy it, and then you're not going to make it anymore. In a socialist society, if you're making shit and people don't like it, they're going to be forced to buy it, and there's nothing they can really do about it, because that's what they have, okay? The only beans on the shelf is the gray can marked beans, okay? You don't get the different kinds and the different flavors anymore. That's not how that works. You want beans? Here's some beans. Generic. By encouraging the production of desirable goods and services and discouraging the marketplace self-regulates, leaving less room for government interference and mismanagement. Fair enough. The government doesn't have to get involved because the people are doing it themselves, and they're making money off of it, and they're creating jobs, and they're flooding the market with money because that's how that fucking works. But capitalism does not guarantee that each person's basic needs will be met. That's fair. It says, hey, listen, if you want to do something, you have to do it for yourself. Okay, we're not gonna prop you up. Okay, if you want to do something with your life, if you want food, then you go get food. That's how that works. Which I actually agree with. It's a give a man a fish versus teach a man to fish type thing. You know what I mean? That's because market mechanisms are mechanical rather than normative and agnostic concerning social effects. Okay, we don't really care what effects it has on society because that's ultimately society's problem. Theoretically, socialist economies provide people with the necessities, as there is reduced economic inequity and insecurity. This is theoretically. The government itself can produce the goods people require to meet their needs, even if the production of those goods does not result in a profit. Under socialism, there's more room for value judgments with less attention paid to calculations involving only profitability. Okay? Socialist economies can also be more efficient in the sense that there's less of a need to sell goods to consumers who might not need them. We could get into a whole thing about that. Resulting in less money spent on product promotion and marketing efforts, okay? You don't have to spend money on like ads and a whole marketing platform because you're the only game in town. They're going to buy your shit and they don't have another option. Criticism of capitalist and socialist economies. Ooh, okay. Cool. Criticism of a capitalist economy. Capitalism relies on innovation with little to no intervention from the government. I don't understand what the problem is with that. But critics of capitalism suggest that since it limits how much governments can do when it comes to production, it puts too much power in the hands of corporations. You mean people who make corporations, okay? Too much power in the hands of people, okay? All right. When this occurs, companies can set prices as high as they want, and pursue big profits. They can, but ultimately they're not going to be able to set things as high as they want because they won't sell it. They're just flat out. If Walmart started selling all of their shit for, let's mark up the prices at Walmart 300%, they won't sell nearly as much shit anymore. Because that's how the fucking market works. It's based on, okay, I can sell this for this much because that's what people will pay for it. It's not, I can sell this for this much because everyone will be forced to pay for it anyway, and it doesn't really matter what I put the number at. It's misleading the way that they do this, but that's fine. This may edge out the competition, which may not be able to pay their employees or innovate even further. Okay, so because businesses fail sometimes, that's a bad thing. No, we want the good businesses to succeed and the bad businesses to fail, right? That's how that is. There are also social programs associated with purely capitalist economies. For instance, companies that want to increase their supplies to meet high demand from consumers generally have to boost their output. This can lead to increased pollution and the higher environmental impact. We can mine fucking carbon right out of the air and make graphene out of it. Guys, what are we doing? Increased production may also lead to unsafe workplaces and income inequality between workers and corporate heads. This is the criticism of capitalism. Are you kidding me right now? There's an income inequality between you and your kid. That's because your kid doesn't work. There's an income equality between an accountant with a master's degree and an 18-year-old that works at a coffee shop. It's because one of you has high-paying skills and the other one hasn't done anything with their life or made anything out of themselves. So the only thing they can do is menial labor tasks that literally everyone can do, such as flipping burgers and sweeping the floor. Alright, this is the criticism of socialist economies. Socialism may have certain shortcomings even though it aims to promote equality and reduce inequalities. Or inequities, I'm sorry. For instance, people have less to strive for and feel less connected to the fruits of their efforts. Yeah, there's no real incentive to do anything, like at all. With their basic needs already provided for, they may have fewer incentives to innovate or increase efficiency. As a result, the engines of economic growth are weaker. Critics also suggest that socialist government planners and planning mechanisms are not infallible or incorruptible. In some of these economies, there are shortfalls of even the most essential goods. I would argue that it's designed to be corruptible and for the people to be in charge to actually... Power is the goal, right? Like, they don't really want money, though they will get a lot of it. They want power. They want to be the one to push the button and shut off food for the general populace, right? When the economy fails, they want to escape on their jet. That's how that works. Because there are no price signals between consumers or producers, the system may not respond quickly to changes in demand. Equality is another concern. In theory, everyone is equal under socialism. In practice, hierarchies do in fact emerge. The party officials and well-connected individuals may find themselves in better positions to receive favored goods. Right? Just like I said, it's as far as I'm concerned, the socialist economy is designed to be corruptible and designed to give all of the power to a very small amount of people, while everyone else lives exactly the same way for a short period of time, because eventually their quality of life, just as time progresses, the quality of life in a socialist economy decreases to the point that it has to switch to a communist society and have a government take over completely, like everything, and force people to do things because they're not going to otherwise, right? Why would you get up and go to work if you don't have to? If I didn't have to pay for groceries and pay for bills, why the fuck would I do anything? Like, for real, like, why would you do anything at all if you don't have to? I don't remember who said it. I heard it from Jordan Peterson, but I know he was. I keep hitting the microphone. I heard it from Jordan Peterson, but I know he was quoting somebody else, and I don't remember who he was necessarily quoting. But he said, if you set society up such that humanity had nothing to do other than eat cake and busy themselves with the continuation of the species, meaning like eat cake and have sex, the first thing they would do is tear it all down just for something interesting to happen, right? We're built for adversity, right? We're built to fight against nature. We're built to mold our world into something that we desire, right? Like that's just how it works. And humans ultimately, as a species, we have to have something to resist against, because if we don't, we have to have some sort of cross to bear, and we have to stumble awkwardly up the hill, because otherwise we don't feel fulfilled. Like, you ever been sitting on your couch all freaking day long and you're just in a shit mood, and then you get up and you go outside and you rake the leaves because, like, you have to, and you're not really doing anything else. But then when you're done raking the leaves, you come back inside and you're like, you know, I feel good. I feel accomplished today. I did something. I can sit back down and play my game, and I don't fucking hate myself, right? Because I got up and I did something today, and you get that dopamine rush, and it's not at all the same as when you're, like, high on drugs, right? This is Britannica.com, so this is like the Encyclopedia Britannica. How is communism different from socialism? Like I said, they're the same fucking thing. It starts out as socialism, and then when nobody's making anything anymore and the government has to step in and start making people make things because the mechanisms that they have to provide the equal amounts of goods to everybody aren't working anymore because nobody's doing anything, it has to switch to communism, right? Exactly how communism differs from socialism has long been a matter of debate. Karl Marx, the guy that wrote the Communist Manifesto, used the terms interchangeably. For many, however, the difference can be seen in the two phases of communism as outlined by Marx. The first is a transitional system in which the working class controls the government and economy, yet still pays people according to how long, hard, and well they work. Okay? So it still kind of gives incentives for people to work a little harder because you'll get paid more to do it that way, right? I think that's about where China is right now. Capitalism and private property exist, though to a limited degree, right? So in China, you can still have private property, and there is still a capitalist economy, okay? Fair enough. However, in Marx's fully realized communism, society has no class divisions or government or personal property. The production and distribution of goods is based upon the principle from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. Meaning, you will be forced to work your hardest, even though the fruits of your hard-earned labor will be taken from you and given to somebody who is designated to need it more. Okay, it actively from each, according to his ability, to each according to his needs. It actively disincentivizes working hard. And that leads to the government forcing you to do it and killing you when you refuse. We're going to take this to its logical conclusion, and that's where it goes every time. This isn't a flaw. It's not like they didn't do it right. It can't be done. It looks good on paper. And to an extent, socialist systems, where everybody pays a small amount in taxes to fund certain systems, right? To an extent, that works. Right? Like your police officers, your firefighters. I would argue we could maybe extend that a little bit to a couple of other people, right? Like, I don't know, Boy Scout troop leaders, right? Something like that. I don't know. Maybe the people that work on the road department, which I think I don't know if it is. I think that's more construction-based, but like still. Anyway. So there is an argument to have certain systems be socially funded, right? But every system is fucking wild. Like, that's crazy. Okay, and then it just goes in to say, who is Mao Zedong? How has China changed since Mao Zedong's death? It really hasn't. Okay, so yeah, they're really interchangeable terms. Socialism is how it starts, communism is how it ends, and ultimately it always ends in the death of just kind of everybody in society, right? Or at least in that society. So even the people that argue that socialism is the way to go because it's the morally right way to go, it's the one that provides the most equality and the most equity among classes, they're fucking stupid. What exactly is Marxism? Right, let's understand it. It's another small little 5-minute video, but PragerU has an awful lot of these. So, understanding Marxism. The enemy of being is having. Let's find out what he has to say about things.
Why does anyone still care about Marxism? Karl Marx has been dead for well over a century. Everywhere Marxism has been tried, it has left death and destruction.
Dude, this dude is not holding back. It's like, I swear to God, Karl Marx has been dead for a century. It's produced death every time. What are we doing?
Destruction in its wake. In fact, nothing in the last 1,000 years comes close to the amount of tyranny, terror, and mass murder brought about by Marxist regimes.
Based.
Yet Marxism lives. It may present itself today as postmodernism, multiculturalism, feminism, environmentalism, or critical race theory. But it's still Marxism.
Mm-hmm.
So, there must be good reasons why it has endured, even flourished in the face of...
Yeah, because it's shiny on paper. That's why, I would say.
...unremitting failure. Say what you will about Marx the economist. He was a master psychologist. He recognized that there are many people in every society who are motivated by envy and resentment. Marx speaks directly to them. He tells them that their responsibility for the misery in their lives belongs to the capitalist system. If we can just get rid of that, he promises, we can eliminate poverty, inequality, exploitation, class conflict, war, and alienation. Not a bad list if you're looking to start a revolution. But there's more. Marxism assures us that this socialist utopia is close at hand, available to all, not in some distant future or in the next life, but here and now. All we have to do is overcome one little obstacle: human nature. Marx expressed his deepest views on this subject in his economic and philosophical manuscripts of 1844. They can be summed up in one phrase: the enemy of being is having. In other words, the desire to own things makes you a bad person. However, you're not to blame. The blame belongs to capitalism. The most common interpretation of Marx's philosophy suggests that he opposed capitalism because it creates an unjust world of inequality, exploitation, and class conflict. Marxism, according to this view, is all about equalizing income and social status. This is true, but it doesn't go far enough.
No, dude, it looks great on paper, man. Like, but
Marx
only
saw
on paper.
The accumulation of material wealth as dehumanizing. The more money and material possessions one acquires, the more estranged one is from his true humanity. And what was that?
Okay, now that might actually have some, okay, maybe, okay, all right.
In the philosopher's socialist paradise, one gets to eat, drink, and go to the theater free of charge and without having to earn a living. Best of all, you get...
The problem is, who the fuck is going to run these theaters, restaurants, and who's going to own the houses? It's not going to be you.
To do it without the guilt of being a moocher. All you have to do is enjoy yourself. Or, as Marx put it, you can do one thing today and another tomorrow. Hunt in the morning, fish in the afternoon, and rear cattle in the evening. Yes, rear cattle in the evening. That's how in touch Marx was with reality.
I mean, that's fair. If anything, you're fishing in the afternoon. Also, I don't think he understands how long it takes to do that kind of shit, right?
But who cleans up?
I don't think Marx ever worked on a farm.
Out the sewers, does the dirty jobs that keep a society functioning. Ironically, in the evil capitalist society, the sewer cleaner freely chooses to take on his job. In the social...
That animal choosing to do that? Why? Also, I do like how they're all wearing safety harnesses. Like, it's required when you're going down there like that, but also they're wearing a safety harness and they're not tied off to anything. That's all I'm saying.
Capitalist paradise, coercion is almost always required. Marx never bothered with such messy detail.
And when you oppose, they kill you.
Almost always required.
And when you oppose, they kill you.
Marx never bothered with such messy details. He left that to others. Unfortunately, those others always turn out to be megalomaniacs, like Lenin, Stalin, Mao, Castro, Pol Pot, and Hugo Chavez. They were the ones who brought Marx to life and in the process caused tens of millions to suffer and die.
I would also add the Kim Jong family from North Korea. I would also add probably Hitler on there. I would add Xi Jinping from the Chinese Communist Party on there too. Maybe even Trudeau from Canada. Just to name a few.
Contrary to Marx's claims, work freely chosen brings both money and dignity. Furthermore, most people work best when they pursue their own self-interest, an idea Marx despised. To him,
look, you might not think people, you might think nobody likes cleaning the sewers, and you're probably right, but they also get paid a whole hell of a lot of money to do it.
Self-interest turns everyone into Ebenezer Scrooge, greedy, grasping, and unfeeling. Not only is money, that is capital, inherently corrupting, but the acquisition of it can't be done honestly or fairly.
Why the fuck not?
The rich got rich by exploiting the worker.
That right there, dude, this guy getting rich because he took money from this guy is not how the fucking economy works, okay? Me earning money doesn't mean someone isn't earning money. That's not how that works.
Marx, there's no other possible explanation. For many today, there is no other possible explanation. For these people, Marx offers a philosophical justification for their anger, even their rage. From generation to generation, the formula never varies. Only by bringing the privileged down can the underprivileged be brought up. The venom that pours out of Marx's pen stems ultimately from the fact that reality wouldn't conform to his worldview. It never seems to have occurred to him that people are complex beings with different talents, ambitions, and desires.
Another thing that I've heard Jordan Peterson say is, you might think that when you're actively trying to do stuff that are better for yourself, if you're trying to get out of the hood, if you're trying to get out of the lower class society, if you're trying to not live in a trailer park anymore, stuff like that. If you're actively doing things to better yourself and you are raising yourself out of that out of that level and into something higher, right? you might think that people, especially people in your family and like friends and stuff like that, would be happy for you and want to like lift you up and promote you and things like that. But that's not what will happen. He said oftentimes, and this is what Jordan Peterson said, was that oftentimes what will happen is that people will actually try and drag you back down or find ways to make you feel bad about yourself or how you're like, let's say for example, somebody comes up and says, man, I'm so proud of myself. I worked super hard and I earned 6 figures last year. Well, the guy that's going to drag you down is going to look at you and go, dude, you earned exactly $100,000. And after taxes, it fucking wasn't even that. Quit getting so high on yourself. He's going to say that because it makes him look better by comparison. Right? And it's easier for him to drag you down than it is to raise himself up. Right? And so oftentimes the people that you think will be proud of you will actually say and do things, whether intentionally or not, that will actively try and drag you back down to their level because it makes them look better by comparison. And this is just the macro version of that, right? Like socialism and Marxism is the macro version of dragging the people that are working super hard to better themselves back down to the level of being, like on the bottom, right? Poverty-stricken, right? If you are born into poverty, there is no way for you to raise yourself out of that situation under Marxism.
May be more accurate to say he didn't care. If people wouldn't conform to his worldview voluntarily, then the state would just have to use other methods of persuasion.
And that right there is exactly when socialism switches and becomes communism.
Like murder and terror.
Correct. Yeah.
It all made sense to the philosopher as he toiled away in a corner of the British Museum or in his squalid London apartment.
That's such a stupid ass term, man. Anybody who doesn't do anything and just thinks for a living, I'm a philosopher.
What is astonishing is that millions came to believe him. What is tragic is that millions more suffered and died because they did.
And people still believe his shit.
Scary is that millions continue to believe.
Dude, yeah, their whole thing is, well, they just didn't do it right, which is the stupidest fucking argument ever. But hey, you know what? Democrat Party for you.
Brad Thompson, professor of political science at Clemson University, for Prager University.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So this is the Rich Dad channel. This is Robert Kiyosaki. Okay, he's the guy that actually authored Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I also recommend you guys reading that as well. It's highly real estate centralized because that's where he made his money. But it is something that anybody could do. So there are... I'm going to let him explain to it. Obviously, go to his channel, the Rich Dad channel. Subscribe to it, like this video. Obviously, I will link this in the description like I do everything else. And while you're on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, Cestal_G2D. Follow my shit, like my shit. Hit that notification bell so you know when I post my shit. Let's go. What is this shit?
What does fake money mean?
So
one of the reasons fake money is so important is after 1971, the U.S. Treasury and the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank, and all banks throughout the world do the same thing. They started doing this.
I like how this video is titled "How the Economy Works for Dummies." Okay, Global Economics 101. I would understand it if he went into greater detail, but the average IQ in America is like 90, so we're gonna watch this one.
When the U.S. couldn't pay its bills, rather than fix the economy, they kept pumping more fake money into the economy. And it got bigger. You know, in '87 there was a major crash, but nothing really happened. They just printed more money.
We're gonna keep going. Fuck it. By the way, this is inflation in a nutshell. That's what he's doing, okay? He's blowing up a balloon. He's inflating a balloon to illustrate to you how inflation works, right? Just throwing that out to you.
And then what happened?
Little nugget of wisdom from your boy Cestal, all right?
Around 2000, as you know, the dot-com bust happened. And it was a slight release of pressure.
Correct.
Some people lost their jobs. The dot-com guys crashed. You know, guys lost billions of dollars. You know, big deal. But then what happened is they didn't fix the problem, so they needed to keep...
He's saying big deal because all his money was tied up in real estate, which historically is a great hedge against inflation. Because as more money gets printed, the price of value of your home, your hard assets, goes up.
Pumping more money into the economy. So up to 2008.
I hope he blows up this balloon all the way until it actually pops. I want to see it pop in his face.
They pump more and more fake money into the economy.
Yeah.
And then what happened is the real estate market went into this big bubble here, stock market, bond markets, and all this. And then
it was absolutely the real estate bubble that fucked up the economy in 2008, like, for sure. They were giving loans to people who had no way of repaying it, and then the banks were just continuously going into debt, which was a big problem for Wall Street.
Yeah. They almost crashed, you know. So the government bailed out Wall Street, the guys who bring us the fake assets.
But in order to do that, they had to print hundreds of millions of dollars, or billions probably at that point, which just inflated all the assets even more, and wages didn't go up. So that's kind of how inflation went, and that's why things now... And so that's why whenever you were a kid, you were able to purchase a vehicle for like $2,000 and it'd be relatively good. And now you can get it for $20,000 and vice versa, right? Like, that's why your parents were able to purchase that 3-bedroom, 2-bath for $60,000 and you have to pay $200 for it. Okay? It's because of this. It's because they had to bail out Wall Street. We need to allow people to fail again. That's how this works. That's how it needs to work anyway.
The taxpayer paid for the bailout, and our teachers did nothing but ask for pay raises. And
get him, Robert.
And
listen. The thing with the teachers, I have no idea how much teachers make, but I do know that they agree to that salary before taking the job, so there's that. And also, teaching is not really a scalable industry, because the only way for me to the only way to scale teaching would be to measure it based on the results of your students, right? Which there's no way of really connecting the results of your students to your teaching method directly, especially in public schooling the way that it is now, because most kids have multiple teachers. So, like, which one do I give the raise to? How do I know who did better? You know what I mean? So there's that. Being a doctor... Oh, I have a higher success rate in my surgeries, right? So I deserve more money. All right, that's scalable. Fair enough, you know. I can build this building for half the price of that other guy because I have these systems set up. Well, okay, well, you know, that's scalable. We can give you more buildings to build and things like that. You can continue to grow. But with teaching, it's not really... It's very hard to scale that. And so if you're going to pay teachers more money... I'm fine with that, but it definitely shouldn't come out of the taxpayer dime, right? So public schooling needs to be changed the way that it is. But I'm also fairly certain that, like, the teachers that work at the private schools and, like, the charter schools and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure they get paid more than the teachers do at the public schools, which is also probably partly why the teachers at public schools don't give a shit anymore. On top of the fact that it's like one teacher for 40 students, right? It's completely unsustainable, and we're working these teachers incredibly hard, and don't get me wrong, they absolutely deserve, like, respect because they are teaching people how to fucking be people, right? But it's really hard to scale it or say that this teacher does better than that teacher, right? Like, or at least in a way that is provable. You know what I mean?
They just kept pumping more fake money into the economy. So after 2008, again, this is Global Economics 101.
Do it! I wanted to say, God, I wanted to pop so bad.
2008, they pumped twice as much money into the economy to try and fix the problem.
Okay, now, all right, hold on. Robert, what the hell are you... What is this thing that keeps popping up?
So since 2008...
Okay, it said not a helium balloon. All right.
They pumped twice as much money into the economy.
It's because of his voice, I think.
Now, who's got a PhD in economics? Now, you don't need to have a PhD in economics.
No, you don't. And that's another thing. Education does not equal intelligence, all right? You can learn anything on YouTube for free, period. However, You don't need to have a PhD and stuff to understand how it works. Okay? You can read and learn shit for yourself without paying somebody hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach it to you. All right? Like that. You don't need to have a PhD in economics to understand how the system works. And unfortunately, there are far too many people that don't understand how the system works. They actually think that one person getting rich means someone else is getting poorer because they don't understand that that's not how money works and it's not how money's created. There isn't a set amount of bills. That's not how that works.
And I know if you keep doing this, you keep pumping more and more fake money to fix the economy.
Yeah.
Does it get any better? So today the stock market is twice as high as it was in 2008. Real estate prices are booming. Lots of jobs because there's lots of debt, financing these goofy projects and all that. And the bond market's an all-time high. So do you have a PhD in economics? I mean, let me ask you this. What happens if we keep going? Just as pension funds go bankrupt, Social Security goes bankrupt, what do you think's going to happen? Do you have a PhD? Look, you don't need one, because this is what's going to happen in a few years. That's what's going to happen to the global economy.
He's right. If the market doesn't catch up to the amount of money that has been pumped into it, it probably is. It's all going to fucking come crashing down because the money won't be worth anything anymore. Like that's what's happening right now. The U.S. stopped printing pennies. They stopped making new pennies. It's still going to be accepted as like American currency and still be worth 1 cent. However, they're not going to be making any more because the amount that it costs, it costs 4 cents to make 1 penny. Like, so it's they can't justify making more, and it's just bleeding the government dry. And it's because the U.S. dollar isn't worth as much as it used to be because we have a whole hell of a lot more dollars chasing the same amount of goods. That's how the fucking economy works.
So the reason I wrote fake is so you can protect yourself, prepare now before that happens.
Yeah. Get precious metals, get real estate. You can invest in the stock market. You can invest in crypto and things like that. Personally, I have money in the stock market, but not all of my money. Most of my money is tied up in like hard assets because I just don't really trust the electronic asset. I do have money in the stock market, though, because why not? But I suggest precious metals like gold and silver, platinum, stuff like that. And also other hard assets like real estate. Okay, because those are the things that historically hedge against inflation. Because your food is going to be worth more, but so is that bar of gold, right? So you're not actually losing any money. If you're just storing your money in a bank account, it actively loses its purchasing power over time because of inflation. So just so you're aware.
But the best way to prepare is to become educated by real teachers, not fake teachers.
Yeah.
And invest in real assets, not fake assets.
Correct. Just like I said, invest in hard fucking assets and you should be completely fine. Anyway, that's the video. That's the stream. That's my take on socialism, communism, capitalism. Capitalism is definitely the most goated and definitely the one that has produced the most prosperity of all of them throughout all of recorded history, if I'm being completely honest with you. Even in Babylon, right? They fucking had capitalist society and it worked. It was the richest city of its time. So anyway, yeah, so follow me on Kick. Follow me on X at real_Sestel. I make based opinions, and I'm fun to talk to as far as I'm concerned anyway. I mean, nobody else really talks to me. I don't know, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Rumble. I'm everywhere that videos are made. I will see you guys next week. Bye.